December 1907, Vienna, Austria. A cold winter morning, an 18-year-old boy walks out of the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. His hands are shaking, not from the cold, from anger. He's just been rejected. Again, for the second time, the Academy has told him he's not good enough to be an artist. Hitler's young photograph fades in. His name is Adolf Hitler. And right now, he's nobody. A failed artist with no money, no future, and no hope. 20-6 years later, this same man stands before 1 million Germans. Massive banners with swastikas hang from every building. The crowd screams his name with tears in their eyes. He controls Germany. He controls most of Europe. And 6 years after that, 75 million people are dead. 6 million Jews have been murdered in gas chambers. Europe is completely destroyed. And Germany? Germany doesn't exist anymore. And this man, the one who started it all, he's hiding 30 feet underground in a concrete bunker, with Soviet soldiers 500 meters away, putting a gun in his mouth. How did this happen? How did a homeless artist become the man who killed more people than anyone in human history? This is the story of Nazi Germany. The rise, the horror, and the fall. And I'm warning you now, every single thing you're about to hear actually happened. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. Vienna, 1908, one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. Grand palaces, opera houses, art everywhere. And living on the streets of this beautiful city, Adolf Hitler, literally homeless. He sleeps in shelters for the poor. He paints cheap postcards and tries to sell them to tourists. Some days, he makes enough money to eat. Some days, he doesn't. His paintings? They're actually decent. Not great, but not horrible either. Just average. The kind of thing you'd buy as a cheap souvenir and forget about. But the Vienna Academy didn't want average. They wanted genius. And Hitler wasn't a genius. The examiner wrote just 2 words on his rejection letter: unfitted for painting. 2 words that changed the course of human history. Years pass. Hitler is still poor, still angry, still a nobody. Then in 1914, everything changes. The First World War begins, and Hitler volunteers for the German army immediately. He's 25 years old, and for the first time in his life, he's found something he's good at. He becomes a messenger, running between trenches, delivering orders under fire. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the war. Men die doing it every single day. But Hitler survives. He even wins medals for bravery. But here's what's strange. His fellow soldiers thought he was weird, awkward, didn't fit in. One of them later said, "We all cursed him and found him intolerable." But Hitler didn't care about making friends. He loved the war itself. Years later, he called World War I the greatest and most unforgettable time of my life. Think about that for a second. The happiest time of his life was when millions of people were dying in trenches all around him. That should have been a warning sign. November 1918. Germany loses the war. Hitler is in a military hospital, temporarily blinded by a mustard gas attack. And when he hears the news that Germany has surrendered, witnesses say he starts crying uncontrollably. Not just sad. Destroyed. Germany is forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles. The terms are brutal. Germany has to admit total guilt for starting the war, pay massive reparations, billions of dollars they don't have, give up huge amounts of territory, and limit their military to just 100,000 men. No air force, no tanks, no submarines. Germans are humiliated, angry, and soon they're broke too. The economy collapses. Inflation goes completely insane. A loaf of bread costs $1 billion. Marx, People use money as wallpaper because it's worthless? And Hitler? He's angrier than anyone. He needs someone to blame for Germany's defeat. And he finds his scapegoat. The Jews. It's completely irrational. There's absolutely no truth to it. Jewish soldiers fought and died for Germany, just like everyone else. But Hitler doesn't care about truth. He needs someone to hate, someone to blame, and he chooses the Jews. Hitler joins a tiny political party, the German Workers' Party. They meet in beer halls. Maybe 50 people show up. They're nobody. Just angry men complaining about the government. But they need someone who can speak to crowds. Hitler volunteers. And something incredible happens. Turns out Adolf Hitler can talk. He discovers he has this incredible ability to mesmerize crowds. His speeches are part rage, part hope, part emotional manipulation. People who hear him speak later say it was like being hypnotized. They couldn't look away. Within a year, Hitler has taken over the party. He renames it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. He designs their symbol, the swastika. He organizes their first stormtroopers, thugs in brown shirts, who beat up anyone who disagrees. The nobody is becoming somebody. And that's when things start getting dangerous. The beer hall DISSDR Germany in the early 1920s is complete chaos. The government is weak. Communists and fascists are fighting in the streets. People are desperate. And Hitler sees his chance. November 8th, 1923. Munich. A beer hall called the Burger Bruckkeller. About 3,000 people are packed inside for a political meeting. Bavarian government leaders are giving speeches on stage. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Hitler and 600 Nazi stormtroopers flood into the hall. Hitler jumps onto a table, fires his pistol at the ceiling. Bang! And everyone freezes. The national revolution has begun. He shouts, "This building is surrounded by 600 men. Nobody leaves." He forces the Bavarian leaders at gunpoint to support him. For a few hours, it looks like Hitler might actually pull off a coup and take over the government. But the next morning, reality hits. Hitler leads 2,000 supporters in a march through Munich toward the center of the city. He thinks the army will join him. He thinks the police will step aside. They don't dot at Odeonsplatz Square. State police are waiting. There are only 100 of them, but they're armed and they're not backing down. For a few seconds, everyone just stares at each other. Then someone, nobody knows who, fires a shot. Chaos. Gunfire from both sides. 16 Nazis are killed. Hitler hits the ground. For a second, people think he's been shot, but he hasn't. He's just hiding. When the shooting stops, Hitler runs. Just sprints away and hides at a friend's house outside the city. 2 days later, police find him and arrest him. The beer hall putsch, as it becomes known, is a complete disaster. Hitler is charged with treason. He's sentenced to 5 years in prison. His political career seems finished before it even really started. But here's where the story takes a strange turn. The judges who sentenced Hitler are actually sympathetic to his nationalist views. So his prison at Landsberg is basically a nice room. He can have visitors whenever he wants. He receives hundreds of letters from supporters. He has a view of the countryside. It's more like a hotel than a prison, and he has time. Time to think, time to plan, time to write. He dictates a book to his cellmate Rudolf Hess. He calls it Mein Kampf, My Struggle. It's long, it's rambling. It's filled with racist conspiracy theories and bizarre ideas about history. But buried in all that nonsense is his entire plan. Destroy democracy, persecute Jews, conquer Eastern Europe, and enslave the Slavic peoples. Create a pure German empire that will last 1,000 years. Everything he later does is written right here. The whole nightmare is laid out on paper. but almost nobody reads it carefully. And the people who do read it don't take it seriously. They think it's just the angry rantings of a failed revolutionary who'll never matter again. Hitler is released after serving only 9 months. And he's learned something important from the beer hall disaster. He's learned that you can't overthrow the German government by force. You have to do it legally. The legal TAKOV are for the next few years. Hitler rebuilds the Nazi Party the right way. Legal, strategic, patient. He gives speeches all over Germany. His message is simple. Germans are suffering because of the Versailles Treaty, because of communists, because of Jews. He's the only one who can save Germany. But here's what most people don't understand. Most Germans didn't love Hitler at first. They thought he was a lunatic dot in the 1928 election. The Nazi Party gets 2.6% of the vote. 2.6. They're a joke. A fringe party that nobody takes seriously. Then in 1929, the American stock market crashes. The Great Depression spreads across the world like a disease. And Germany gets hit worse than almost anywhere. Banks collapse. Businesses close. By 1932, unemployment in Germany hits 30%. Millions of people have no jobs, no money, no hope. That people are desperate. And desperate people don't want complicated explanations for their problems. They want someone to blame. They want simple answers. And that's exactly what Hitler gives them. 1930 election, 18%. The Nazis are suddenly a major party. 1932 election, 37%. The Nazis are now the largest party in Germany, but and this is crucial, they still don't have a majority. Hitler hasn't won. 63% of Germans voted for other parties. So what happens? Conservative politicians make a deal. They're arrogant, entitled. They think they're smarter than Hitler. They say, we'll make him chancellor, but we'll control the cabinet. We'll control the government. He'll be our puppet. They thought they could control Adolf Hitler. This is one of the greatest miscalculations in human history. January 30th, 1933. Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. That night, Nazis march through Berlin carrying torches. Tens of thousands of them. Hitler watches from a window, smiling. One newspaper the next day writes, Hitler Chancellor, what can possibly happen? Beat of silence. Everything. Everything can happen. 4 weeks later. February 27th, 1933. Late at night, the Reichstag, Germany's parliament building, catches fire. Flames shoot into the night sky. By morning, the building is gutted. Hitler immediately blames communists. He claims it's the start of a communist uprising. There's no evidence for this. In fact, historians now think the Nazis might have started the fire themselves. But it doesn't matter. Hitler goes to President Hindenburg, an 85-year-old war hero who's senile and barely understands what's happening, and convinces him to sign an emergency decree. The Reichstag Fire Decree. It suspends civil liberties, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press, all gone. It's just temporary, they say. Just until the emergency is over. The emergency never ends. Those rights never come back. 3 weeks later, Hitler pushes through the Enabling Act. It allows him to make laws without parliament approval. Democracy in Germany officially dies on March 23, 1933. And then? Then it's just a race to total control. April. Jewish shops boycotted. Jewish doctors, lawyers, teachers fired from their jobs. May. Trade unions banned. Nazi-controlled German labor front created. Books burned in massive public bonfires. 25,000 books go up in flames in Berlin alone. June. Other political parties start getting banned or just dissolve themselves out of fear. July. The Nazi Party is declared the only legal political party in Germany. From January to July, from democracy to dictatorship in 6 months, and he did it legally. That's the horror of it. German democracy voted itself to death. It was all legal. Total Siontiaro by 1934, Hitler controls Germany. But there's a problem. His own supporters are getting in the way. Ernst Rem leads the SA, the stormtroopers, the brown-shirted thugs who helped Hitler rise to power. There are 3 million of them now, and Rem wants more. He wants to merge the SA with the German army. He wants real power. The German military hates this idea. They're professional soldiers, and they look down on the SA as street thugs. They tell Hitler he has to choose them or Rem. Hitler chooses the military. And his solution is simple. Murder. June 30th, 1934. The night of the long knives. Hitler's elite guard, the SS, goes on a killing spree across Germany. They hunt down SA leaders in their homes, in their beds, on the streets. Ernst Rem is arrested and thrown in a cell. They offer him a gun to kill himself. He refuses. So they shoot him. At least 85 people are murdered that night. Probably more. Nobody knows the exact number because Hitler never admits to it publicly. But everyone gets the message. Cross Hitler, and you die, even if you're his friend, even if you helped him rise to power. None of that matters. 1 month later, President Hindenburg dies. He's been the only person with more authority than Hitler. The only one who could theoretically stop him. Hitler doesn't even wait for the funeral. He immediately merges the positions of president and chancellor. He gives himself a new title, Führer, leader, not chancellor, not president, just leader. By 1936, Nazi control is total. Every newspaper prints what Joseph Goebbels tells them to print. Every radio broadcast is approved by the government. Every film, every song, every book. All controlled. Children join the Hitler Youth, where they're taught to worship Hitler and prepare for war. Schools teach Nazi racial theories as fact. Universities fire Jewish professors. Giant rallies at Nuremberg with perfect choreography. Hundreds of thousands of people standing in formation. Dramatic lighting. Hitler portrayed as Germany's savior. It's propaganda, but it's incredibly effective propaganda. And it works. By 1936, most Germans genuinely support Hitler. Why? Because things have gotten better. Unemployment has dropped. The economy has recovered. There are jobs. New highways are being built. The Autobahn. What people don't see is that Hitler is preparing for war. All those jobs, they're building weapons, tanks, planes. All that economic growth, it's the military-industrial complex gearing up. But most Germans don't care. They're just happy things are better than they were in the desperate years of the Depression. But for some Germans, things are about to get much worse. The PRCCUTIAN. Imagine you're a Jewish German in 1933. You were born in Germany. Your parents were born in Germany. Maybe your grandparents too. You speak German. You think of yourself as German. Germany is your home. And then, slowly, your country turns against you. You lose your job if you work for the government. Teachers, professors, judges, all fired. The Nuremberg laws. You're no longer a citizen. You can't vote. You can't marry a non-Jewish German. You have to register as Jewish. You have to carry special identification. You're German. You've always been German. But now, legally, you're nothing. The Olympics come to Berlin. Hitler wants to impress the world. So for a few weeks, the persecution stops. Signs saying Jews not wanted are taken down. Foreign visitors see a beautiful modern Germany. The Olympics end. The signs go back up. Things are getting worse. Jewish businesses have to be registered. More and more restrictions every month. Some families are trying to leave Germany, but most countries won't take them. And then comes the night that changes everything. November 9th, 1938. Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. All across Germany and Austria. Nazi mobs attack. They smash windows of Jewish shops. They burn synagogues. 267 synagogues destroyed in one night. They beat Jewish people in the streets. 91 Jews are murdered. 30,000 Jewish men are arrested and sent to concentration camps like Dachau and Buchenwald. One survivor later wrote, "I was 10 years old. I watched our synagogue burn. Police stood there watching. They did nothing. The world condemns it. The New York Times runs it as front-page news. But Hitler doesn't care what the world thinks anymore. And as Germany conquers more territory, Austria in 1938, Czechoslovakia in 1939, Poland in 1939, millions more Jews fall under Nazi control. January 20th, 1942, a villa on a lake near Berlin. 15 Nazi leaders meet for a conference. They have breakfast together. Nice food, coffee, relaxed conversation. The meeting lasts 90 minutes. In those 90 minutes, they plan the systematic murder of 11 million people, every Jew in Europe. Every single one. They call it the final solution to the Jewish question. Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Chelmno, Meidnik, death factories. That's what they were. Factories designed for murder. Jews are told they're being relocated to work camps. They're packed into trains, cattle cars, standing room only. No food, no water, trips lasting days. They arrive at the camps. SS officers divide them immediately, left or right. Strong men and women to the left for forced labor. Everyone else, children, elderly, sick, to the right, the ones sent to the alley. Right are dead within hours. They're told they're going to shower after their journey. They're herded into rooms. The doors lock. Zyklon B gas is released through vents. Within minutes, everyone is dead. Their bodies are burned in crematoriums. The ashes are buried in mass. Graves. By 1945, 6 million Jews have been murdered. 6 million. 1.5 million of them were children. Anne Frank, 13 years old when she went into hiding in Amsterdam with her family. They hid for 2 years in a secret annex. She wrote in her diary about her dreams, her fears, her hopes for the future. In August 1944, they were discovered. Anne was sent to Auschwitz, then transferred to Bergen-Belsen. She died of typhus in February or March 1945. She was 15 years old. Her diary survived. She didn't. Bergen-Belsen was liberated by British forces in April 1945, just weeks after. Anne died. This wasn't war. This was murder. Industrial-scale murder. The systematic attempt to wipe an entire people off the face of the earth. The Holocaust. That's what we call it now. At the time, the Nazis had their own euphemism, the final solution. 6 million Jews, and millions more. Disabled people murdered in the T4 euthanasia program. Roma people, gay people, political prisoners, Soviet Poles, Polish intellectuals. How? Did ordinary people participate in this? That's the question that haunts us. Some were true believers in Nazi ideology. Some were following orders and were too cowardly to refuse. Some feared punishment if they didn't comply. And some just didn't care. The Holocaust proves humans are capable of unimaginable evil. But it also proves we must never forget and never let it happen again. The WR, while murdering civilians. Hitler is also starting the deadliest war in human history. September 1st, 1939. German tanks and planes cross into Poland. World War II begins. Britain and France have guaranteed Poland's independence. They declare war on Germany. But they can't help Poland in time. The Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Tanks, planes, and infantry moving fast and coordinated. Poland never had a chance. In just 4 weeks, it's over. Then Hitler goes on a rampage across Europe. Denmark. Conquered in 6 hours. Norway. Conquered in 2 months. Netherlands. 5 days. Belgium. 18 days. Luxembourg. 1 day. And then France. France has the most powerful army in Europe. The Maginot Line, massive fortifications along the German border. Everyone expects the war in France to last months, maybe years. June 1940. It lasts 6 weeks. German tanks go around the Maginot Line through Belgium. French forces are cut off, surrounded, destroyed. Paris falls. The French government surrenders. Hitler visits Paris as a conqueror. He poses for photos in front of the Eiffel Tower. He's won. In less than a year, he's conquered most of Western Europe. Only Britain is still fighting. Winston Churchill becomes Prime Minister of Britain in May 1940. When his advisors suggest negotiating peace with Hitler, Churchill refuses. We shall never surrender, he says. Summer 1940. The Luftwaffe, German Air Force, tries to bomb Britain into submission. Day after day, German planes attack. British pilots fight back in desperate dogfights over southern England. Britain loses planes. They lose pilots. But they keep fighting. September. Hitler gives up. The invasion of Britain is postponed indefinitely. It's Hitler's first defeat. Britain is still free. So Hitler makes the single biggest mistake of his entire life. June 22nd. 1941. 4 a.m. 3 million German soldiers, 3,000 tanks, and 7,000 artillery. Pieces cross into the Soviet Union. It's the largest invasion in human history. Operation Barbarossa. At first, it's another blitzkrieg. Soviet forces are caught completely off guard. Entire Soviet armies are encircled and captured. Within weeks, Germans have taken hundreds of thousands of prisoners. By October, German forces can see the spires of Moscow through their binoculars. They're that close. But then winter arrives. German soldiers aren't prepared for Russian winter. They don't have winter uniforms. Their equipment starts failing. Tanks won't start because the oil freezes. Soldiers get frostbite. Some freeze to death. The advance stops just short of Moscow. December 1941. 2 things happen that seal Germany's fate. December 7th. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, bringing America into the war. 4 days later, Hitler declares war on the USSR. United States. Now Germany is fighting the British Empire, the Soviet Union, and the United States of America, the 3 most powerful nations on earth. All at once, Germany cannot win this war. It's mathematically impossible. But Hitler refuses to accept reality. August 1942 to February 1943. The Battle of Stalingrad, the bloodiest battle in human history. Fighting house to house, room to room. 2 million casualties. Dead, wounded, missing. February 2nd, 1943. Germany's 6th Army, 330,000 men, surrenders. Only 6,000 of them will ever see Germany again. It's Germany's first major defeat on land. The turning point. After Stalingrad, Germany is just losing slowly. British and American bombers start destroying German cities. Hamburg is firebombed. 40,000 civilians killed in one night. Dresden, Cologne, city after city. From the east, Soviet forces advance, slowly, brutally, taking back every inch of territory. And they're angry. They've seen what Germans did to their country. They want revenge. June 6, 1944. D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history. 156,000 Allied troops land on the beaches of Normandy, France. Germans fight back hard. Thousands die on both sides. But the Allies establish a foothold. By August, Paris is liberated. By September, Allied forces reach Germany's western border. Germany is being crushed from east and west. The end is coming, but Hitler still won't surrender. The Biography, January 1945. Germany is dying. Soviet forces are advancing from the east. American and British forces from the west. German cities are being bombed to rubble. The economy has collapsed. Millions of German soldiers are dead or captured. January 16th. Hitler moves permanently into a bunker underneath Berlin. The Four Bunker, 30 feet underground. Concrete walls 6 feet thick. No windows. No sunlight. He'll never leave this bunker alive. Inside, it's like a tomb. Narrow corridors. Small rooms. The air is stale. Ventilation barely works. It smells like sweat and diesel fuel from the generator. You can hear the constant thud of Soviet artillery getting closer every day. And Hitler himself is falling apart. He's 56 years old, but looks 70. His left hand shakes uncontrollably from Parkinson's disease. His doctor has him on a cocktail of drugs, amphetamines, opiates, who knows what else. He's addicted. He spends hours hunched over maps, moving pins representing army divisions that don't exist anymore, giving orders to commanders who are dead or captured. His generals don't have the heart to tell him the truth. They're too afraid. Above ground, Berlin is hell on earth. Soviet artillery pounds the city day and night. Buildings collapse. Fires. Rage everywhere. Soviet forces are advancing block by block. The German defenders are mostly teenagers and old men. Hitler has ordered every male between 16 and 60 to fight. It's suicide. Everyone knows it. But Hitler doesn't care. He tells his armaments minister Albert Speer, if the war is lost, the nation will also perish. There's no need to worry about what the German people will need for survival. He's willing to destroy Germany completely, rather than surrender. April 1945. Soviet forces are 500 meters from the bunker. You can hear machine gun fire. You can hear tanks. The end is days away, maybe hours. Hitler's staff describes these final days as surreal. He still holds military briefings, but everyone knows it's pointless. Sometimes he rants for hours about how everyone betrayed him, his generals, the German people, even the weather. Other times, he just silently, staring at nothing. April 29, 1945. Hitler decides to marry his longtime girlfriend, Eva Braun. She's been with him for years, but always kept in the background. Now, with hours left to live, they get married. The ceremony is in the bunker's small map room. A city official performs the ceremony. It lasts 10 minutes. There's no music, no celebration. Just a quick exchange of vows in a concrete room while the world ends above them. The next day, April 30th, 1945. 3:30 in the afternoon, Hitler says goodbye to his staff. Some of them are crying. He shakes hands with each of them. Then he and Eva Braun go into his private study. They close the door. Minutes later, a single gunshot. Hitler's valet opens the door. Hitler is sitting on a couch, dead. A pistol on the floor beside him. Blood on the wall behind him. Eva Braun is next to him, also dead. She's taken cyanide. Following Hitler's orders, his staff wraps the bodies in blankets, carries them up the stairs into the garden above the bunker. They pour gasoline over the bodies and set them on fire. Soviet artillery shells are landing nearby. The staff has to keep ducking for cover. But they wait until the bodies are burned beyond recognition. Then they bury what's left in a shell crater. May 2nd. Soviet forces capture the Reichstag building. A Soviet soldier climbs to the top and waves the red flag. Photographers capture the moment. May 7th. Germany signs unconditional surrender to Western Allies. May 8th. Germany signs unconditional surrender to Soviet Union. It's over? The FDR at the cost of Hitler's war? Almost incomprehensible. 70-5 million people dead. Worldwide. 27 million Soviet citizens. 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust. 6 million other civilians murdered. Disabled people. Roma. Political prisoners. Poles. Berlin. 80% destroyed. Warsaw. 85% destroyed. Dresden. Firebomb. Hamburg. Firebomb. 3 major German city is rubble. When Allied soldiers liberate the concentration camps, they find survivors who are literally skeletons, walking, dead, and they find piles of bodies, gas chambers, crematoriums, warehouses full of shoes, glasses, human hair. American General Dwight Eisenhower tours the camps and is so horrified he orders everything to be filmed and photographed. He says, "Get it all on record now. Get the films. Get the witnesses. Because somewhere down the road of history, some bastard will get up and say that this never happened." November 1945. Nuremberg trials begin. As surviving Nazi leaders are put on trial for crimes against humanity, a new legal concept created specifically for these unprecedented crimes. 12 are sentenced to death by hanging. Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command, cheats the king. Hangman by taking cyanide the night before his execution, but most Nazis never face justice. Thousands escape. Thousands more are never caught. Some flee to South America. Some change their identities and just blend back into German society. Germany itself is divided into 4 zones: American, British, French, and Soviet. Eventually, this becomes 2 countries, West Germany and East Germany, divided by the Berlin Wall for 45 years. Today, there are still a few Holocaust survivors left. Every year, there are fewer. They're all in their 80s and 90s now, and they all have the same message. Never again. Never forget. Tell our stories. Make sure the world remembers. Because this wasn't ancient history. This was 80 years ago. Your grandparents' generation. Some of the people who lived through this are still alive. And it can happen again. It can happen anywhere. That's why we study this. That's why we remember. Not to depress you, but to warn you. Sionc started with a rejected art student, a nobody, a failed artist sleeping in homeless shelters in Vienna. 20-6 years later, he controlled most of Europe. 6 years after that, 75 million people were dead, and he died hiding in a bunker with a gun to his head. Today, Germany is a peaceful democracy. Berlin has been rebuilt. Holocaust memorials stand where concentration camps once were. German students study this period in detail. More than students in most countries. The message is everywhere. In stone. In bronze. In the words of survivors. Never again. The tactics Hitler used: scapegoating minorities, spreading conspiracy theories, attacking the free press, undermining democratic institutions, offering simple lies for complex problems. These tactics didn't die in 1945. They still work. They're still being used by politicians around the world today. That's why this history matters. Not because it happened, but because it could happen again. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana. End screen. If this video mattered to you, share it. Let's make sure the world never forgets. Thank you for watching.